All right, big news coming in. Let's quickly cut into the latest news break, which puts the spotlight on the top court of the country tomorrow. The Supreme Court likely to announce its verdict on the legal recognition of same-sex marriage. This will happen tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Let's hark back to May, viewers. The top court had reserved the judgment on a batch of petitions, pleas seeking legal validation for same-sex marriage. In May this year, the Supreme Court held a marathon hearing to consider the issue of giving recognition to same-sex marriage and the legal and social questions arising out of those petitions. The hearings were held after 18 same-sex couples filed petitions before the top court seeking recognition of their union, their relationship with the legal status of marriage. However, the centre in midst of all of this has said that this is not the purview of the top court. This is the purview of making laws and the parliament. Cutting across to my colleague Nalini Sharma, who joins us live, our top legal expert with the latest. Nalini, take us through on what we can expect tomorrow.
Well, Preeti, no doubt about the fact that it's going to be a big day tomorrow before the Supreme Court, because it's no less than a 5-judge constitution bench being headed by the Chief Justice of India, Dr. D.Y. Chandrachud, that is expected to pronounce this verdict. The reason why we are saying expected is because we are still waiting for a confirmation from the Supreme Court on their website as to whether or not this judgment is going to be pronounced. But all sources have indicated that the judgment is likely tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. A 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court headed by the Chief Justice of India and also including Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Justice S. Ravindra Bhatt, Justice Hema Kohli, as well as Justice P.S. Narasimha. Now remember, Justice S. Ravindra Bhatt is set to retire on Friday. Friday will be his last working day, which is why we're expecting this verdict to be pronounced tomorrow. It's a big thing that everybody is watching out for, whether or not legal recognition will be given to same-sex couples to get married in India, whether the Supreme Court is going to turn down their plea or whether they're going to take a middle path. Remember, the centre has categorically told Supreme Court, Preeti, that this is not in the domain of the Supreme Court to decide this, that laws can be made only by the Parliament and the court should leave this up to the Parliament to do that. So they have categorically refuted these pleas, but it remains to be seen what's going to happen tomorrow, because that's what's going to set the course for exactly how things proceed for same-sex couples as well as the entire LGBTQ community in India henceforth.
Well, not just that, it's going to be path-breaking, whichever way the court decides. Will the court be conservative? Will it go all the way, or will it take the legal middle path? I want to bring in Nalini back into this conversation. Nalini, will you just give us a bit of a background on how long this fight has been, on the petitions that have been heard by the court over the course now of months?
Well, absolutely. And Preeti, remember, this year we've completed 5 years since the landmark judgment that the Supreme Court had given, that had struck down Section 377 of the IPC, that had decriminalized homosexuality in India. So it's 5 years since that judgment when we are now looking at as to whether or not same-sex marriages will be legalized. There was a marathon hearing before the Constitution bench of the Supreme Court, after which in May this year the judgments were finally reserved, and now the Supreme Court is expected to pronounce it. Little bit earlier, if you remember, the Chief Justice of India in open court had also said that they are continuously working on the judgment. There are a lot of stakeholders that they've had to refer to, a lot of aspects that they've had to look into, because remember, it's not as simple as whether or not legal recognition should be granted. There are also a lot of corresponding rights. When you allow somebody to get married legally, there are rights regarding adoption, divorce, maintenance, succession. All of that needs to be looked into, but at the same time, the Supreme Court's not gone into those aspects during the hearing. They've kept it overall only on the aspect of as to whether or not marriages should be legalized, which leads us to believe that the Supreme Court might be a little bit more inclined to take a middle path, but no speculation as of now, Preeti. It all awaits to be seen.
Even if it is a middle path, what would be the modalities or the fine print of that middle path? But this is all conjecture. We'll only know tomorrow. Thank you, Nalini, for joining us. Big day tomorrow for India in terms of which side of history will the Supreme Court stand on. However, the centre has made it very, very clear. Viewers telling the Supreme Court, this is not your job, this is our job. We have to make laws. Interesting day lined up tomorrow. With that, I want to quickly now shift focus onto another ruling of the Supreme Court today, taking the conservative view. The Supreme Court today sided with the rights of a fetus than the rights of a mother. A pregnant woman, 26-week pregnant, she approached the court at 24, adamant that she wanted an abortion. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of life, pro-life. Here's more. Top court picks right of fetus over right of mother. Mentally ill woman will now be forced to birth child. Woman's autonomy versus right of unborn child was a dilemma for India's top court. The big pro-life versus pro-choice debate that had India and its top court split. A three-judge bench of the Supreme Court has now ruled a woman who is over 26 weeks pregnant will not be allowed to abort her fetus. A bench comprising Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, Justice J.B. Pardiwala and Manoj Mishra, in a case that led to raging debates over the right of a woman over her own body and the right of an unborn fetus, has now ruled in favor of the fetus. The Supreme Court on Monday rejected a petition filed by a woman to abort her 26-week pregnancy. The bench, headed by the Chief Justice of India, said that it could not permit abortion as medical assessments showed no threat to the pregnant woman or any defect in the fetus. The top court directed the state to bear all medical expenses and said it would be up to the woman to keep the child or put it up for adoption. The case concerns a 27-year-old married woman with 2 children who is currently 26 weeks pregnant. At 24-week 1 day, the pregnant woman had approached the court seeking abortion on the grounds that she does not wish to continue the pregnancy as she is mentally unwell. She said she could not raise a third child emotionally, financially, or mentally. The medical board looking into the case confirmed that she has postpartum psychosis. The woman in question has tried to take her own life in the past. India as a country has the most progressive abortion laws. However, this case has led to a deep divide. What if she was single, a sexual abuse survivor? Would the verdict have been different? As there is a precedent where India's top courts have allowed abortions post 24 weeks in certain cases. Top court picks right of fetus over right of mother. Mentally ill woman now forced to birth child. Top story on To The Point this evening. Let's quickly listen in to the petitioner's lawyer. My colleague Nalini spoke to him.
Amit, have you had a chance to speak to the couple since the order has come today? Where are they right now? How are they
Just now,
feeling about?
she is in touch with me since morning. I tell you, she is asking ki what will happen today, and I am unable. It's very difficult for me to discuss, to inform her about this order.
Have you not told her yet?
Just I inform her just now. She was calling me again and again. As in the afternoon, I told her ki 2 o'clock it will come. Then after that, I told her ki 3 o'clock. Then she's calling me and she's also apprehensive what will happen. Then I informed her ki just proper complete order has not yet come, but I have come to know from operative part has come and our application has been not allowed. So she got disturbed, really. She got disturbed. And I also got disturbed.
No, I understand. It must be really difficult.
Because I am sad for her, actually. I am sad for her. Actually, her case is very strong. She was falling under exceptional category. The same we have done before the other patients, other victims, other petitioners who have come approach the court. So same thing would have been done with her also.
Right.
She would have got justice.
I want to quickly cut across to our panelists this evening. Joining me is Sanjay Hegde, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court Lawyer, Trisha Shetty, Founder, She Says, Human Rights Advocacy Activist, Deepa Ishwar, Artist and Activist, would be joining us. She's with us, Dr. Geeta Bhatt, Academician and Political Analyst. Mr. Hegde, my first question to you. By the purview of what has been precedent, there have been cases where the court has allowed 26-week pregnancies also to be terminated. In this particular case, how do you see that the court deemed and rejected the plea?
See, the question is whether an exception could be made. The law is that you can have an abortion up to 24 weeks. There are 3 trimesters in a pregnancy. The first 2 trimesters are absolute rights of the woman. As far as the 3rd trimester is concerned, there is one more interest to be taken. Fetuses are viable even outside the womb. So you have a living person. We have had even premature babies. I have had one in my family where childbirth has occurred at 26, 27 weeks and the child has grown up. Now, the point is you have a fetal heartbeat. This is not a case of rape. This is not a case where the fetus has abnormalities. So without those exceptional circumstances, it is very difficult for a court to say that irrespective of what, there is an absolute right in the mother not to bear a child with a living heartbeat. The judges were being called upon to stop the heartbeat of a living child. That, I think they have said no.
But Mr. Hegde, and I'll want to bring in our other guests also into the conversation. The fact is this woman, admittedly adamant, because she was asked a couple of times whether she wanted to reconsider. She was very clear that she will not because she's mentally sick. She suffers from not just postpartum, she suffers from clinical depression. She's attempted to take her life in the past. Doesn't all of this make for exceptional circumstance?
See, there are exceptions provided in the law. Now, there are ranges of clinical depression. Postpartum depression is a phenomenon which is sort of time-bound, or it happens immediately after childbirth. In this case, the judges would have reviewed the medical evidence and said that it still doesn't fall to that level where the woman's life is in immediate danger.
The sheer fact, because the lawyer has said repeatedly that, she's attempted to take her own life, not once, twice. But having said that, I want to just bring in our other guests into this conversation. Trisha Shetty, Founder, She Says, Human Rights Advocacy Activist, with us as well. Trisha Shetty, would you think that if this woman was not married, she was single, or possibly a victim of sexual abuse, possibly the outcome of this case would have been different?
We have seen that happen, right? We have seen exceptions been made before the amendment to the Act of 2021. There were exceptions made that allowed for termination of pregnancy post the 20-week period, acknowledging the risk of grave injury to the mental health of the pregnant women by carrying the pregnancy to term. We've seen this in multiple cases, as well as in 2021, a minor who was allowed to terminate her pregnancy during the 26th week, taking into consideration her socioeconomic condition as well as the impact. I think in this case, I refer back to what Justice Nagarathna said when she allowed for the termination of pregnancy in this specific case, where she specifically highlighted that a fetus has no separate identity from mother, that a woman cannot be forced to undergo pregnancy at the risk of physical and mental trauma, and that right to reproductive health is sacrosanct, which means a woman has human rights to also include right to abortion. I think in this case, unfortunately, we have obeyed the letter of the law whilst ignoring the spirit of it. We've not taken into consideration the sort of postpartum psychosis the woman is going through here, that she was not aware that she could even be pregnant whilst she was nursing her second child. The fact that we live in a country where women do not have guaranteed access to sexual and reproductive health care rights. I'm glad that at least in this case, the courts have directed the state to take care of, to bear all medical costs. But in essence, you are forcing a woman and her partner to carry to term a pregnancy that the woman is saying she's not psychologically fit to. And how can we see that as anything else but not having compassion towards the woman who's being forced to subject her body to do this? And it's not like she doesn't know what being pregnant is. It's not like she doesn't know what being a mother is. She knows very well and is therefore asking for compassion. And I think we have failed her here.
Deepa Ishwar, we spoke on Friday when this case was, it had the Supreme Court in a dilemma of sorts. But the court has ruled in something that you were in the favor of, which is pro-life. But having said that, in some way now, this woman who was very adamant that she did not want the child, who said she was suffering mentally, will now practically be forced to birth a child she doesn't want.
Yeah, so like my respected co-panelist Trisha was saying, we should be showing compassion towards the woman. I have my compassion for her. My heart goes out to her. But I'm sorry to say that my heart goes out more for that little heart beating inside her womb. Because she's already a mother. A life has taken birth inside her. And this baby is at 26 weeks. And this is a sensitive topic for me because like I said on Friday, I would like to say that I am in my 37th week of pregnancy, moving into my 38th week.
Congratulations, Deepa.
The baby is able to feel things. The baby is able to hear things. The baby is able to respond to the mother. And there are a lot of things, instead of talking about for the lack of another word, instead of talking about killing the fetus or killing that little one inside, we should be talking about supporting this woman, giving her all the necessary support in terms of counseling, medical support, in terms of, are we sure we've exhausted all those means? We would have tried them, but are we sure we've given enough to that woman? Now, secondly, if she carries this baby full term, and she gives birth to the baby, there are options, I believe. I'm not an expert legally, but I believe there are options to give up the baby for adoption. The baby has a whole world to take his or her life ahead. Why are we, talking about killing that life when we can actually support this woman and try to bring this life to the world and give it a good living condition? Maybe not by this family, but some other family who will be able to do that. So why are we talking? I think as a country, as a nation, we are probably thinking very negative on this. We should be thinking on a positive lines. We can have compassion towards a woman. I'm a woman. I've gone through postpartum depression, my first pregnancy. I know what it feels like, but at the same time, we should have a compassion to the rights of the unborn baby.
The fact is, depression is, I would reckon, very personal, and whatever one is suffering from could be very, very different. The sheer fact that this woman in question tried to take her own life not once, twice in the last 1 year would be testimony enough of what she was going through mentally. But having said that, Dr. Geeta Bhatt, I want to bring you in and then we'll cut across to Mr. Hegde again, because strangely, the same woman just a week ago was allowed to terminate her pregnancy by a 2-judge bench. But we're going to come back to that. Dr. Geeta Bhatt, now who takes the onus of, you've chosen pro-life, you've chosen the right of the fetus over the right of the mother here. But who takes onus if this woman in question, who's now forced to birth a child, on what she goes through mentally? Because if there was a physical ailment, if there was something physically wrong with her, a physical threat to her, the court would have ruled in a certain way. But because the threat is now mental, we're not giving it enough importance, do you reckon?
Yeah, Preeti, I think, the call of the judiciary has taken is totally based on what is there in the MTP Act, the Medical Terminate Pregnancy Act. And accordingly, they have given a verdict. But yes, I think this definitely is a moral dilemma, that whether one stands with the right to life of an unborn child or to stand with the right of a woman on her body. Definitely, the house is divided, and there is a lot of uproar regarding that how this woman is going to cope up because of her mental health illness. But as I understand that there have been not one but 2 medical boards which looked into this case, and it was based on their recommendation that the judges have given given their final verdict. Now, yes, if once the child is delivered, and if the mental illness of this woman, if she, God forbid, ever takes any such extreme steps, definitely, I think she already has 2 children. Who actually is going to look after them and take care of this unborn child? Support, I think there are various developmental organizations, NGOs, who are there to support people who are in need of psychological support, and such kind of organizations can come forward, and probably as per the directions of the court, that there will be the medical expenditure is going to be borne by the government in this case. Along with it, there could be NGOs who could come out and provide some foster support to this child. There have been previous cases also where I remember a few years ago, the Calcutta High Court had given a judgment where the child had Down syndrome. But still they refused to give permission to terminate the pregnancy.
There are multiple.
That there was no threat to the woman's life.
Right, so, but Dr. Bhatt, like I said, there are multiple times, just 3 days ago, on Friday itself, you had the Bombay High Court, which allowed the termination of a 25-week pregnancy. And even in this case, and I will bring in, our legal experts back into this conversation, Mr. Hegde, even in this case, when she came in, she was 24 weeks, 1 day pregnant. The legal recourse has taken 2 weeks of that. Otherwise, she was well within the purview of terminating this pregnancy, which was still 24 weeks. And the 2-judge bench had allowed her to terminate the pregnancy till, of course, AIMS got back and said that the fetus is viable.
Well, that changed the perspective, right? See, the point with the pregnancy is that as it develops further, as the weeks go by, the fetus becomes more and more viable. Now, there have been fetuses, in fact, the word cesarean comes from Caesar, who was untimely ripped from his mother's womb. Once the fetus is viable outside the womb, the state has an interest in that. If the doctor had said, A, the fetus is not viable, if there is no fetal heartbeat, then different consequences could have followed. Even where a fetus is on the verge of viability, if the mother's health, and by that including mental health, is at very grave risk, then again an exception could be made. And that is the line that the lady's lawyer argued in court. But this is where you have to trust your judges. This is where the judges made a call. They took a look at even her mental records, probably. There have been instances where people have been depressed in certain circumstances, but it is not something which falls within that category made in law, where the woman's life is at immediate risk. So the judges finally made a call saying that no, we cannot allow this particular abortion. Yes, other panelists were mentioning where the cases where there were 26 weeks, but then there were circumstances like rape, there were circumstances like a fetal abnormality, and there the courts have allowed it. The point to be taken home probably is that if you are going to have an abortion, please have it as fast as possible. As soon as you...
that's easier to say also, Mr. Hegde,
Yes.
because in this case, this woman didn't know she was pregnant because for 1 week she had amenorrhea, the absence of menstruation, because she was lactating, and she thought, as per medically proven, that it was a contraceptive. So she had no idea, and she approached the court at 24 weeks 1 day, which till 24 weeks is within the purview and the permit of getting a legal abortion.
Well, there is a legal saying that hard cases make bad law. And in this case, where the doctor said that the fetus has become viable, then it is a question of stopping the fetal heartbeat. I don't think the judges were willing to take that call in this particular case.
Trisha Shetty, you want to weigh in very quickly? You've been shaking your head as when Deepa and Dr. Geeta were speaking. Go ahead. But, somewhere down the line, even with Dr. Geeta Bhatt, the comments that she's made, it's got everyone split. You really don't know what side to take here.
Are you directing this question to me? Sorry.
Yes, Trisha, go ahead. Closing comments.
Yes, so I just want to say, look, there is no right to life of unborn child without acknowledging the right of the mother bearing the child in question, right? A woman is not a baby incubating machine where you're trying to make a big case for what about the right to life for the unborn child. We must take into primary consideration, you're talking about the autonomy of a woman, the right for her to make decisions, fundamental decisions about her body, and to assume that in one stretch you can say she's a fully cognizant woman, she's capable of bearing children, but in that same dimension, she's not capable of making decisions with regards to her own body. I think it's absolutely unjust and unfair. We must remember that we have laws that protect women in this country, progressive laws that also take into account the mental health of a woman. This woman has already tried to commit suicide, right?
And I'm going to cut you short on that. We're running out of time. I just want to take closing comments. Deepa Ishwar, you want to come in with your final comment?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that, life is sacred, be it of an adult or a newborn or an unborn. As much as, the moment the heart has started beating, it's a life and life is sacred. I think we should give this woman all the support we can. We should make sure that she is mentally, she has all the support, she's calm, give her all that we can as a nation. That's what we should do for her, rather than telling her that you don't need this baby. So I feel that I'm totally, I respect what on this.
Fair enough, but that's what she wants. Dr. Geeta, ma'am, 20 seconds, please, final comments.
Well, Preeti, you see, this is the time when I think this lady, she needs a lot of support, family support as well as support from well-wishers. And I'm sure this particular case is definitely going to be a historic kind of a case where it is going to take forward that how such cases in future, because in India we have very liberal medical terminate pregnancy laws if we look at the rest of the world.
All right, with that I'm going to cut you short. I apologize, we've terribly run out of time. With that, I'm going to close the show. Our viewers can decide on what side of the fence that they're sitting in on this. One really also needs to look at the health of this woman. She was very adamant that she didn't want it. The top court has decided to pick the rights of the fetus over the rights of the mother. We leave it for our viewers to decide where they stand.